Alright guys, Bill, I'm here, back with more Yakuza 5. I decided to do one more episode for today. To be honest, I might even after this say fuck it and do one more after that, but we'll see. We're very close to the end. I mean, again, from what I understand, we're about like an hour, about a little bit over an hour away from finishing the game. So I don't know, we probably won't finish it now, but I think we're pretty much guaranteeing that I finish it tonight. So, yeah, but also, I'm in the process, throughout the entire day today, I've been watching my old videos, specifically my Assassin's Creed videos, and kind of continuing on with that, so. Watching the first one I ever did, which is my Assassin's Creed novelization video.
His father and expanding on his relationships with the boss and Malik. The AC1 novelization portion of the book features very little changes from the original, most likely because the source material is already
this is my history of Assassin's Creed novelization video.
It also shows a lot more of Altair's character.
This was before Valhalla, way before Valhalla, obviously. This is actually almost immediately after Odyssey came out.
The novel also includes a faithful novelization.
Yeah, I'm talking about Secret Crusade right now.
Which was a PSP game that details Altair's relationship with Maria and the story of him writing the Codex. Now, the events from Altair's life that were told in the
that's interesting.
are also retold here, but this time with more detail.
I don't know if we're gonna bother with it, but I mean, that's interesting.
That's pretty cool as well. Overall, The Secret Crusade is definitely a great book for Assassin's Creed fans. It really makes Altair a much more likable character.
Once you're done, all you want, talk to Kiru if you're
going to move forward to
Yakuza.
2012. With the release of Assassin's
Otherwise,
Creed Forsaken,
yeah,
the tie-in
okay.
novel for Assassin's Creed 3.
Okay, so we're at the end of the game then, right?
Now, this is a very interesting
We should be good,
it's the
I
first
would
book in the
think.
series to actually go tell its own story, that of the life of Haytham Kenway. Though it does
Wait, what?
include some scenes from AC3, it tells them from Haytham's perspective.
Did it say Talk Yama?
There is a frame narrative in this book, with the book being Haytham's diary that Connor is reading after his death. The book details Haytham's childhood, giving us a lot of information on Edward Kenway as well, who would later be the protagonist of AC4, though Edward is very different in this book, a lot of it being due to the book being written way before the development of AC4. After Edward's death, the book details how Haytham became a Templar, mostly due to his relationship with Reginald Birch. The book also details how Haytham got his hidden blades, and expands on his relationship with Edward Braddock, which leads up to the novelization part of the book, where sequences 1 through 3 of AC3 are pretty much retold exactly how they happened in the game. After that retelling, Haytham's relationship with Theo is expanded on, and we follow Haytham as he returns to Europe, which leads to a major event for his character, and expands on the life of Jennifer Scott, Haytham's half-sister. The book has no details of the events of AC Rogue, obviously because AC Rogue did not exist at the time. Back third of the book is pretty much a retelling of AC3, but this time through the eyes of Haytham, only telling the events of Sequence 8 on. But before that, we do get some details on how Haytham learned about Connor being his son. The book ends with Haytham's death by the hands of Connor, and then follows Connor a little bit to retell the remaining events of AC3. But this ending is pretty fantastic, featuring two really good monologues, the first of which being Haytham's final journal entry, where he explains to Connor why he acted the way he did, and hopes for forgiveness and understanding from him. The other speech is from Connor, which was originally intended to be part of the game, but was cut for no reason, considering the audio file is in the game. The epilogue speech for Connor is so great, as it concludes Connor's character arc by showing his recognition of his failures, but also having his determination to fight for what he believes in, even though he knows that he may never win. Forsaken is probably the biggest recommendation on this list, as to me and to many other people, it is the best book in the series. With Haytham already being a great character in AC3, this further expands upon it, making Haytham one of my favorite characters ever. So that's it for AC Forsaken. Now we're moving on.
It's right, because like I believe what happened there is I noticed I didn't have any good transitions. Like I didn't transition well between books or whatever that I was talking about, so I decided to re-record these sections afterwards, and like you could tell the difference in quality, audio quality.
Flag, the novelization of Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag. This book returns to being more of a direct novelization than the previous one, following the life of Edward Kenway. The frame narrative here is, once again, this is a journal written by Edward after his years of being a pirate. Something that's really expanded upon here in the book is Edward's life before leaving leaving for the Caribbean. As the book starts 4 years before the events of the game, the book shows Edward meeting his first wife, Carolyn Scott, and really dives into his motivations on why he became a pirate to begin with, which are implied in the game but not really explicitly said. Most of this being due to him feeling unworthy and him not being able to find contentment. Unlike the previous books that seem to add filler to boost the length, this book does the complete opposite by eliminating a lot of the story. It eliminates the entire Nassau plotline that involves the blockade, and eliminates some of his story with Blackbeard, like the siege of Charlestown. There are some moments from this book that still seem to be cut moments from the game, where there is a fight between Edward and El Tiburon earlier in the game, which ends with Edward's defeat and him ending up on the ship where he meets Adewale. But strange that this was originally supposed to be in the game, but was cut. Instead of a full fight, El Tiburon just knocks Edward out with one hit. But still, at the end of the game, after Edward kills El Tiburon, he still makes reference to this fight, even though it never happened. Another thing that's only in the books is Edward's feelings for Mary Read and Anne Bonny, but I kind of feel like that's for the better. And there was also a scene where Edward learns about Steve Bonnet's death, but again, I don't know if that's needed. After the events of the game are retold, the book does continue to show him returning to Bristol, and does attempt to link to Forsaken, which already detailed Edward's later life. Black Flag overall is kind of a mixed bag. While the original content in this book is interesting, and Edward's motivations are more clearly defined, I do find this book a bit forgettable, and one that at the end of the day, I don't know if I can really recommend. However, if you are a massive Edward fan, why not just give it a shot? So now let's move on to 2014, which saw the release of 2 Assassin's Creed games, Assassin's Creed Rogue and Assassin's Creed Unity, but Unity is the only one to get novelization here. The Unity book follows the same format as Forsaken in many ways, this time following the life of Elise de la Serre, showing her backstory and her perspective of the story, which I do think makes her a more well-rounded character and really adds a lot more perspective to the narrative of the game. Unity has the exact same frame narrative as Forsaken, with this being Elise's diary, and Arno is reading it after Elise's death. Also like Forsaken, Arno has short stretches in between certain chapters to allow him to comment what he just read. Again, like Haytham, Elise only appears for about half of the game, which leads to most of this book being original content. The book begins with Elise's childhood, showing her joining the Templar Order, and also the death of her mother. This is followed by Elise's trip to London right before the events of Assassin's Creed Unity, and surprisingly connects Unity to Forsaken with the appearance of an elderly Jennifer Scott. This section of the book also details a lot of Elise and Arno's relationship. The book then retells the events of the game from Elise's perspective, giving context to what Elise was doing in between her appearances in the game, showing her trying to become the leader of the Templars after her father's death, and later showing her investigation, which includes some characters that didn't show up in the games. The book follows the events of the games pretty accurately after Elise and Arno get back together, but it does skip a couple sequences. The book ends pretty similar to Forsaken, with Arno reading a letter that Elise wrote for him right before her death, with the knowing that she was willing to die in the fight with Germain. AC Unity here is another book that I would really recommend. I actually really enjoy this book, and a lot of that comes from the fact that it pretty much mimics Forsaken in almost every single way, but this time with a less liked character in Elise. However, after reading this book, I definitely liked Elise a lot more, and it overall increased my enjoyment of Unity's story. Now we're moving on to 2015 with the release of Assassin's Creed Underworld, a partial novelization of AC Syndicate. The story primarily follows the life of Henry Green, but it does also follow Ethan Frye and Frederick Aberline. The weird thing here is that the first 2/3 of the book act as a prequel to Syndicate, being set 6 years before the events of the game and showing Henry Green's arrival in London and him living with the pseudonym of the Ghost. This also expands on his relationship with Ethan Frye, who becomes his assassin teacher. The first 2/3 of the book are rather dark, so it's pretty jarring when you get to the last third, which is a retelling of the Evie Frye section of the Syndicate storyline, which is noticeably more lighter in tone, making the book feel uneven and weird. Now, without the Jacob sections of the story, the last third goes by pretty quickly and really shines a focus on Evie and Henry's relationship, including the cutscenes that play out after you find the pressed flowers. The back third of this book, though, doesn't really add much original content, being a pretty direct novelization. Underworld, for me, is a pretty mixed bag. I never really cared for the book, partially due to me never really caring much about Henry Green. That being said, though, I don't mind the first half of the book, but it's really towards the second half where it starts to go a bit downhill. So we're moving on to 2016, where there was no main series Assassin's Creed game, but there was the movie. So we're going to talk about the official movie novelization, written by Christy Golden. Again, I'm not going to talk much about this, considering the book is mostly faithful to the film, but it does feature side characters more prominently. It does fix some lore issues, though there are still a lot more in there, and does provide full backstories for most of the characters. This is the first and only up until this point novelization to include the modern day, also including Aguilar's narrative, and also having some original stories with some familiar faces like Duncan Warpole, Yusuf Kazim, Baptiste, and Xiao Jun. Overall, the movie novelization is pretty good, especially when comparing it to the film itself. It breaks lore less often and is able to tell a more coherent story. However, in my opinion, that story was never good to begin with. But if you're a massive Assassin's Creed fan and you hated the movie, I would still recommend checking out the novelization. Now we're moving on to 2017 with the release of Assassin's Creed Origins Desert Oath, which was a prequel to Assassin's Creed Origins, detailing the early life of Bayek, and was actually released a few weeks before the game, allowing fans to know some of the characters before the game's release. Now this isn't a real novelization, again it's mostly an original story, but it did tie in with the game, so I decided to still talk about it. The book primarily takes place 20 years before the events of the main game and gives us a complete backstory on Bayek, including his relationship with his father, who was also a Magi, and his relationship with Aya, and eventually includes the birth of Kemu as well. Some characters from the game do appear in this story, with most of them being the people from Siwa, and this book also introduces the War of the Ancients. Since this isn't a real novelization, there's no repeated content here, so there isn't much to compare. Overall, Desert Oath is okay. I do like that they introduced the characters of Bayek and Aya before the release of the game. However, this is another book that at the end of the day, it didn't really stick with me. So much to the point where I was just kind of on Bayek's character up until I actually played the game and really fell in love with him. However, if you are a big fan of Bayek and a big fan of Origins, this is the one you could read, and it does provide a lot of insight, a lot of concepts that show up in Origins, and a lot of concepts that end up being brought up in the Assassin Order. So now it's time for the final book at the time of this recording, moving on to 2018.
Yeah, after this, I think we're gonna actually go ahead and watch my 10-year later AC2 video, because I am probably going to end up redoing that video.
To be confirmed as canon, mostly due to the branching storyline of Odyssey. The book follows Cassandra, who is the canon protagonist, with Alexios appearing as Deimos, as you would in the game if you picked to play as Cassandra. The timeline of the book is much more realistic, taking place over the course of 10 years. Some changes from the game to the book are that Cassandra finds Icaros as a child, instead of it being a guardian sent to her by Pythagoras. The monger captures Cassandra and brutally tortures her, which was not in the game. Really, a lot of gender-specific things happen here. Obviously, it couldn't be in the game due to the same script being used for both characters, but I think this really amplifies why we don't need multiple characters in Assassin's Creed. Marini is the one that kills Lagos in the book, with Cassandra pretty much having nothing to do with that entire storyline in the book, instead of hearing about it later. Cassandra trains Testicles for about a year, even after she kills the Cultist King. Cassandra was also imprisoned for about a year, instead of escaping instantly like in the game. The end of the family storyline here takes place in 422 BC, ending with Cassandra killing Deimos, though Stentor, Nikolaos, and Marini remain alive. The rest of the story takes place over the course of 1 year, with Cassandra meeting Pythagoras on Thera, where he dies 3 days after handing Cassandra the staff, instead of dying instantly. Now in the book, there are no mythical creature fights, and most of the references to the Isu are omitted, with the book never referencing Aletheia, the Forge on Andros, the Olympus Project, or the modern day. The book ends with the cultist storyline, where Cassandra lets Aspasia go, mainly due to Aspasia not dying for another 20 years in real life. This is actually a book I did not read until I started doing research for this video, and I came out of Odyssey enjoying it despite not really loving the game. Though I do have minor issues here and there with certain plot things, I do think this story is more coherent than the game's narrative. And obviously, if you're a massive Assassin's Creed fan, this is kind of one I need to recommend, due to the fact that this is canon while the game is not. So there we go, that is every Assassin's Creed novel that ties in with a game or film. Again, I wouldn't really recommend reading these unless you're really a big Assassin's Creed fan, considering a lot of the information on these books could be found on the wiki. The ones I personally would recommend, though, are Forsaken, Unity, and probably The Secret Crusade. They're my 3 favorite novels. So yeah, that is every single Assassin's Creed novelization up to this point. Thank you for watching.
I just like really abruptly ended, don't I? Holy shit. Yeah, again, I want to watch this AC2 video because this is one I'm probably going to end up redoing.
I'll be talking about my thoughts on Assassin's Creed 2, 10 years after its initial release. And it is really strange to think that this game is officially 10 years old. But AC2 is such an influential game in my life, and while I do still love the game from a narrative perspective, and it still remains one of the best narratives in the entire Assassin's Creed series, I feel like some of its gameplay just doesn't hold up at this point, and some other elements of the game were just never that great to begin with. So while this is a very nostalgic game for me, it's not one where I overlook its flaws. Let's start by talking about my experience with this game. I mean, I first got into Assassin's Creed around the release of this game. I ended up picking up Assassin's Creed 1, and I fell in love with it. I mean, I really love almost everything about it. I love the parkour system. I love the history. I love the sci-fi elements that were also there.
Yeah, I do regret not going more in detail
it's
for
really
this
like
video.
everything I like in narratives mixed into one thing. And I just played the game over and over and over again, and months down the road, eventually, on my birthday, my parents bought me AC2, and as sad as it might sound, it completely changed the way I look at the world. I mean, whether that's for the better or for the worse, I feel like ever since playing AC2,
so we did get confirmation today, by the way, that the Celebrity Circle is next month. The question is when next month. But also that pretty much confirms that the Circle UK is going to be the month after. It's going to be in April. So that's something else I have to plan for.
A special place in my heart. I remember at the time. I remember when I was about to first play Assassin's Creed 2. I was a bit worried. Again, I loved Assassin's Creed 1 so much. I know that all the reviews were saying, oh, AC2 is better than it in every single way, but again, I just loved Altair so much. I loved almost everything about Assassin's Creed 1 outside of its mission structure. I just didn't think that AC2 would surpass it, and it did in almost every possible way. So let's start talking about the game itself. Let's start off with its setting, the Italian Renaissance, which I think was a perfect setting for this sequel. I mean, AC1 obviously took place in the Crusades. It's a very dark, depressing, cold setting. Obviously the Renaissance here is more jovial, more lively, and you also see a lot of that through the tone of the narrative. The open world is kind of a mixed bag for me. I mean, it's constructed like many other open world games from that time, where instead of one massive world, it's a lot of smaller maps that are connected like a line. And some of these maps are good, some of them aren't. Tuscany is mostly just empty fields, but there's a town in the center, and really, it's just average. It's alright, though. Notoriety becomes really a pain in this area. Montergioni is really nostalgic to me, and there's surprisingly a lot of stuff to do there. I mean, there's collect statues, renovations. It's just a fun place to be in, even though it's extremely small. So many important narrative beats happen there, and obviously it's a major setting in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood as well. Florence is probably my favorite city in the game, and probably one of my favorites in the franchise as well. I mean, it's fun going from rooftop to rooftop, and the city really feels built for that style of gameplay, which I do feel eventually gets lost in Assassin's Creed somewhere down the road. The mountains is, it's a set piece. I mean, it's nothing really. It's really just there for one specific mission, but it does remain in the open world, so yeah, it's kind of pointless. I never cared for Fort Lee. I mean, the city itself is fine. I mean, it's like your typical average city, but everything outside of it is just so swampy and depressing, and also just like kind of annoying to navigate through. Might need an Ezio Collection Remaster did brighten up this area a bit, but still not my favorite location. But speaking of difficult to navigate through, we have Venice. And Venice sucks. I mean, Venice, I mean, the thing about it is that obviously aesthetically and in terms of being like an iconic city, obviously Venice is that. But the number of canals in this area make the city a real pain to navigate through. When you're running on ground level, there's like multiple dead ends or sections that lead to places that you don't really turn on. It's such a pain to go through.
What's his face? Shinada, we don't really have to worry about conserving.
Assassin's Creed game. Now let's talk about the gameplay. I think the base gameplay really has
because like he gains heat back
probably
quickly.
has aged the worst out of any Assassin's Creed game. I think even Assassin's Creed 1 has at least a stronger combat system. I feel like Brotherhood really improves the combat system of AC2, but the AC2 base gameplay is just kind of clunky. The parkour is really clunky at points, especially before you get the climb lead. I will say, I do have a lot of nostalgia for the old school controls here, where each of the face buttons represents part of the character's body. And I was disappointed where they got rid of this in Revelation. As I mentioned, the climb lead really doesn't prove things, but again, you don't get it until the halfway point. So climbing does get very frustrating during that first half of the game. Combat is really slow as you spend most of your time waiting for your enemies to attack so that you can counter them. And the use of light and heavy attacks that was prevalent in AC1 was taken out, so I do feel like the combat system was a bit of a downgrade here, and really just one of the worst in the entire series. Mission structure is something I didn't love at the time because of the abundance of long tailing and escorting missions. And I still dislike these types of missions now. I mean, that being said, I do think the first half of the game is mostly void of these types of missions and is better for it. The back half of the game becomes a slog of just terrible missions. I mean, Sequence 7 is one of the worst sequences in the entire franchise. It's filled with escorting missions and killing random guards. Sequence 9 has some of the dumbest missions I've ever played, with the Carnivale minigames being really poorly designed, especially the catch the flag minigame, where the best strategy there is to run off the roof, almost killing yourself, grab the flag, and climb back up. And then you have to do this 3 times. And what's even worse, too, is that you're forced to play the DLCs if you have them installed, and you completely break up the pace of the game. It's so strange. Sequence 11 really sets off at a point where it's like, okay, now we're going to take down Rodrigo Borgia. This is going to be the end of the game, but then it's like, nope, you have 2 sequences to play in between then, and then you get to the end of the game. And even then, when you get the codex pages and all that stuff, it's really just not a fun section of the game. Especially because, in my opinion, Valkyrie is relatively boring. I never particularly liked Valkyrie, and although while fun, it is pretty long, with a long string of assassination missions, and obviously there are codex pages to collect, so by the time you get around to fighting Rodrigo Borgia at the end of the game, it feels so long since you've actually been playing the main story. I never got how these DLCs were actually supposed to be part of the main game. They were supposed to be part of the main game. There was content that wasn't able to be finished before the game's intended release. Because that came out and released them later, and
That was
again, I still think it's just really games. Like, I don't think what they were thinking there. Not that I want side content in the game. It's a bit of a mixed bag. I mean, there's some really boring, monotonous quests, like the races, the beat-em-up events.
Yeah, another ways.
There's you know, you pay for them, at least not a free one. But there was some other really good content. I really love the renovation system. Obviously, it's not as refined as the Brotherhood, but it's fine here. Some PC glyphs really expand the lore and set up a really interesting storyline with some missions that never lived up to their potential. They were this game. The best piece of side content here are just really fun platforming sections, and probably some of the best missions in the entire game. Which leads to getting the armor there, which probably makes it outfit the entire series. Definitely the best outfit. Now, from a narrative perspective, which I need to still think this is one of the best narratives in the entire series, the perfect display of character development following that still over the course of more than 20 years. From a dumb, more noble, skilled master assassin, it's also served as a foundation for one of the best characters, if not the best character in this entire series. But while I do feel like I'm a really strong character here, I do think other characters get better first. Bayek and Edward, which really that's the experiences that really make me stand out. But considering how radically different he was from Altair, he definitely a few breath of fresh air. The side characters here were also much stronger than AC1 as well. So three iconic characters in the series like Leonardo and Mario and Claudia, Machiavelli, Katarina. So many great characters here. The villains for the most part were fine. I mean, the real one that stands out for me are, I guess Ares is probably one of the better ones, but also Rodrigo. I think Rodrigo is probably one of the better main antagonists in the entire series. The thing I remember being mind-blown about at the time, though, was the reveal of the first stage. I mean, I remember the fight with Rodrigo at the end, where I was just wondering what he was saying, talking about how God finds revolt him, finally enter revolt, and we see his rejection of Minerva, talking about the end of the world, and talking directly to the end. I love this twist here. It was just such a great new wrinkle to this narrative.
I failed that, or was I
Kept
supposed
me
to
with the Assassin's Creed franchise for as long as I was. From a modern day perspective, I think this game does a really good job of progressing the mysterious tone that came from Assassin's Creed 1 while expanding its overall lore with the glyphs.
Wait, what?
While also connecting itself to
Are you fucking serious? I had to redo that entire section because of that? That's bullshit.
I also find it really impressive that they include this section of Altair where you chase down.
I mean, can I just continue on? The game let me. No, damn it. Well, that's boring and annoying.
The creative director of Assassin's Creed 1 too. Obviously, I didn't notice this at the time, but I do feel like he was such a massive reason of why I fell in love with the franchise. While he was there, the games had purpose, they had a direction, they had a plan. And you can see that throughout Brotherhood as well. That was the final game he worked on. But after Brotherhood, especially especially after AC3. You can tell Ubisoft had no clue what they were doing with this franchise. A lot of the potential within the overall narrative that they had was just completely dropped pretty much. A lot of storylines that started within this game and Brotherhood are completely dropped, are never picked up on again, or if they are, done so in a way that's very blatantly not what was initially intended. But I've said this before and I stick to this now that I do wish the series got his vision. I do wish that the series ended with Assassin's Creed 3. But obviously, Ubisoft wanted money and that's not really what we got. And because that we have Assassin's Creed on. But overall, I think AC2 is a really nostalgic game for me, and playing it for the first time was one of the best experiences I've ever had with the game. But when taking out the nostalgia, I mean, the gameplay really hasn't aged well, even comparing it to Brotherhood. It was a massive improvement in almost every possible way gameplay-wise in my opinion. Both the narrative and the modern day of AC2, it still remains a pretty strong game, and it's one of the main reasons to play the game nowadays. So that's everything I gotta say about AC2 10 years later. Thank you for watching.
Yeah, definitely want to redo that video at some point.
Alright,
Whatever. Say the plan for later today. We're gonna go back and start watching the challenge again. So I'm gonna start watching the challenge Rivals, which will be interesting, I guess. So while watching that, just work on prepping videos for my other channel. I don't really have like a big set goal for today. Like ideally over the course of today and tomorrow, I would like to get every video for this batch prepped, with the exception of the two big reviews, that's 5 videos, so it's actually quite a bit. So I don't know if I'll be able to do it, but I think I'll try. Like if I don't do it, I don't do it. Like I don't really give a shit either. Like it's not that big of a deal. Especially considering that next week I don't really want to start the process of recording yet, because I want to make sure I get through Yakuza 6, so that I can add the Yakuza 5 and 6 video to this batch of videos. So since recording's not going to be a priority, it's like it doesn't really matter. It's like, fuck off. Actually, that really lost us a whole bunch of time, didn't it? Shit. Yeah, so we're gonna end relatively soon. I think what we'll do is we'll probably try to finish this fight and then we'll end. So here we go. This is the fight that we fucked up on, right? Okay, so let's try not fucking this up this time. Oh, try. That's why I fucked up, isn't it? I think I pushed the wrong button. I was like bashing on the wrong button. So I was bashing on X. I didn't realize it was triangle. Thank God everyone just spawned back in. Kind of dumb I had to do fucking redo 10 minutes of gameplay just to do that, but whatever. Oh, that was red at the end too. It's even more annoying then.
Hi, 開始1分前。
はるか、準備はいいわね。さあ、夢のユニットドリームラインの始まりよ。私たちも思いっきり楽しもう。
Oh wait, did they announce a premiere date? I guess they announced a premiere date. How did I not know this? Yeah, the premiere is March 9th. Okay. So if it lasts a week, that means it's gonna end on the 16th, which is not ideal. Because I think I have the video currently scheduled for 17th, and there's almost no way I can get that video done in that time. So it might have to be for the day after, or for the week after. But what are you gonna do? To be honest, it's fine. I believe all this is just switching this for our South Africa video. So like it's fine, technically. And the video's gonna be a bit late. It's gonna be out like a week after the finale, which is annoying, but you know what are you gonna do? The question now is what do I do with the circle, the main circle season? Because I think to fit that on the schedule, I'm gonna have to delay the Far Cry video. But what are you gonna do, I guess?
Kurosawa. やっぱりお前が来たか。つくづくお前らは期待を裏切らない。感動するぜ。真島はどこにおるんや。
Where's Majima? Yeah, I was pretty sure he wasn't dead.
Majima! 堪忍や兄弟こないなことになってしもて黒沢一体これはどういうことなんや説明せえまあそう焦るな楽しみはこれからなんだからよ何をしてんねんお前これでいいおいさあ始めるんだ真島お前何してんねんすまんの兄弟俺らは殺し合いをせんといかんらしい何やと俺にはな桐生ちゃんの命より大切なもの見捨てることはできんかった何わけのわからんこと言うとんねんお前こういうことだこれは合図をすればすぐにその女を射殺するよう命令してあるこれ以上は説明しなくてもわかるよな貴様沢村遥の命を救いたいのなら自分の兄弟を殺せ真島が勝てばその瞬間射殺二人とも仲良く天国に送ってやるだが冴島もしもお前が勝てばその命助けてやる何やとお前は登場会を破門された腹いせに真島を人質に立てこもり殺害した犯人として一生塀の中で過ごすことができる無所暮らしは好きだったんだよなお前この下道が兄弟やる気なんかやらんかったら5万人の目の前で夢が散る俺らが死んだところで悲しむ人間はそうはおらん答えは一つやそんな体でほんまに俺とやり合うつもりなんか5分ともたんで今のお前と俺は力が違いすぎるお前も言うとったはずや昔とはちゃう俺の相手はもうでけへんってその通りせやったらなんで確かに2年前
俺はお前の相手ができんかった。それはな、あん時のお前が弱すぎたからや。
何やと。
2年前バッティングセンターでお前の戦い見た時によう分かった。お前はシャバに出て登場界に戻ったことで牙を研ぐことをやめてしもた。牙を錆びつかせたら極道はしまいや。せやから俺はお前に引退するよう勧めたんや。
引退。
そう、お前の破門状、あれ出したんは森永でも青山でもない。あの破門状は札幌に渡る前に俺自身の手で出したもんやったんや。
お前が。
ほんまやったら弱なったお前をこの事件に巻き込むつもりはなかった。せやけどお前の18人殺しっちゅう伝説がそれを許さんかった。
兄弟。
さあ脱げや。ちゃんと目の前で証明してくれや。俺の親友は光る牙取り戻したっちゅうことをな。
Sure.
やるしかないんや。勘弁せえ。
兄弟。アホが。ここであの子を見殺しにするような男やったらどのみちわしの方から殺しに行っとったわ。感謝するで黒沢。こうしてまた本気で兄弟とやり合える。情けかけられたまま兄弟に死なれてもうたら俺は死んでも死にきれんかったとこや。ほな行くで兄弟。ああ、俺らの最後の喧嘩の花しっかり咲かせたらやないかい。
Alright, so we're gonna end here, I think. Next episode, we'll go and continue on. Again, we should be able to finish up in the next recording session. Let's get this and... Oh, that's it for that. Alright. But yeah, we'll end here. We'll finish the game next recording session. So yeah, that's it for this episode. Thank you for watching.